Everybody, welcome to This Woman Can. I am your host, as always, Janice Sutherland, career strategist for the woman of colour over 40. Oh, well, we're doing really well with these interviews, and I'm really enjoying the stories and journeys that are being shared. And my guest this week is no exception. My guest is Robin Tillotson, and Robin has a wealth of experience in the arenas of advertising, public relations, human resources, training, and gerontology. I need to ask what that is. I don't know what that is, but we'll come back to that. As an avid traveller and purveyor of culture, Robin has travelled to China, Northern Africa, France, Italy, Spain, Mexico, Canada, and throughout the United States. She loves Chicago and its world-class cultural offerings. When not traveling, Robin is reading, learning, and visioning where to travel next. And she never tires of attending plays, concerts, and dance performances. Robin is also a licensed social worker who specializes in working with older adults 60 plus. She is a graduate of Oberlin College, where she received a BA in English Literature, and she received an MSW from the University of Chicago. She's received a number of awards and accolades, along with having her business featured in the Chicago Tribune and Travel Noire. Now, I've given you a couple of clues in there to what her business, maybe I could call it a side hustle, is. And let's see if I'm right as we talk to Robin. Hi, Robin. Welcome to This Woman Can.
Why, thank you, Janice. I'm so happy and thankful for the invitation.
Thank you. You're welcome. So, Robin, you give a little background about your career, but how did you get to where you are today?
Well, that's a good question. So I actually, after having a successful career in all those arenas that you mentioned, decided at age 43, I'm 63 years old now.
Woo, woo, woo.
40, yes. At age 43, I decided to go back to pursue my master's in social work.
Right.
And I decided at that time, Janice, that my concentration was going to be in gerontology,
right,
which is the study of and working with older adults.
Thank you for clarifying that.
This was around 2002. So at that time, gerontology courses in universities and the whole field of working with older adults, or what we call the field of aging, was starting to really explode, mainly because we have 77 million baby boomers. So
wow.
I just decided, one, that because I had been around older adults for all of my life and I was born to older parents,
right,
it's a natural fit to really go in that direction. So from 2002 to the present, I've been working with the Chicago Department of Family Support Services, and the unit is senior services. And I run a regional center along with, there are 4 satellites under my direction. And under the roof of a senior center, you're going to find vibrantly aging seniors, people who are 60 plus, who are exercising and doing all kinds of fun things now that they're retired. So we are a place that they can come to, have fun for the day, take in a meal. We offer day trips and that kind of thing. And then they return to their own homes.
Okay.
Independently functioning. So around 2015, I started thinking about when I would want to retire myself. And more importantly, Janice, what I wanted to do when I retired.
Thanks. Yeah.
And after thinking about it and consulting with a friend of mine who was at the time 30 years old, much, much younger than I said to him, I said, David, I've got to figure out what I want to do when I retire in about 7 years. And he said, Robin, that's really easy to figure out. It's travel and culture. So I was like, duh, how come I couldn't have come up with that particular idea? I'm like, it makes perfect sense. That's what I love to do.
Yeah.
I love going, as you've mentioned in my bio, plays and anything cultural. But more importantly, I love traveling. So I decided to create a business that was geared toward women 50 plus, because I felt like that population, Janice, was a population that was doing things for everybody.
Yes.
Communities, volunteer organizations, churches, their spouses, their parents, their children, grandchildren, and they were happy to do it, but it was very glaring that they were not necessarily doing something specifically for themselves. So I came up with a business entitled This I Do for Me. So that's how I got started. And actually, Janice, the name comes from a saying my mother used to use all of the time. I remember very specifically her buying a purse for herself one day. She said to me and my brother, "Now this I do for me." And I must have been about somewhere between 10 and 12 years of age.
Yeah.
And it always stuck with me. So when it came down to deciding what my mission for the business was going to be and what cohort I was going to serve, that saying came to mind. And more importantly, the saying made sense to use because of what I was observing with older women.
Yeah, it's a great answer. It's a great answer, Robin. Now, when you said, I think you said it was an aging, you handle an aging population, you had a phrase, I can't remember it now, like the aging population of 60. And I'm like, wow, I'm only a few years away from that. And I do not consider myself as a part of the aging population per se. So I don't know. I don't know how I perceive my perception of aging. I just think, when I was younger, I would have seen my age right now as being incredibly old. Now I'm here. I'm like, I'm not this age. I don't, that doesn't compute for me.
Because the funny thing is, and that it doesn't compute for most of us. I'm 63 and it's never going to compute. I think because of the images that it tends to conjure up. Particularly in Western society, where many times once you hit 50 even, you're supposed to be put out to pasture. You don't have anything else to contribute. But what's enlightening about this population, whether it's the population I'm working with in my full-time job or the women that I'm working with in my business, is that they don't fit that particular composite at all. They are very vibrant. They eat well, they exercise, for what it's worth, they don't necessarily look in their age, and they certainly don't act the age that we have been given in terms of images. So no worries. The bottom line is you're in good company. We all feel like we're just beginning our lives. Particularly for those who have raised children and now they have time. What's unique about this population is that typically they're finished raising children. They're not necessarily looking to climb the corporate ladder. And so they're ready to explore new vistas in their lives, and they're really excited about it.
Yeah. Well, from that respect, I can relate to that.
Exactly.
So Robin, obviously you've made a number of transitions throughout your career, but what do you consider to be your greatest career in reinvention, either past or coming up? What would you consider that to be?
Actually, I have two areas. One would be when I decided at 43 to go back and pursue a master's degree. I literally quit a well-paying full-time job to do it. I believed that strongly in what I was doing or what I was about to embark on. And I knew it was something about the field of aging that was going to allow me to grow and expand and contribute. So that would be one. And then secondly, the biggest pivot I think would be the fact that I started the business This I Do for Me. And I never imagined I started it in 2015. So I was like, what is that? 57 years old, I guess.
Right.
I never would have imagined that I would be growing a business, not just from the travel end, but I've developed a podcast and I'm starting to do more article writing on behalf of other women in my age group who are doing phenomenal things. So
fantastic.
I feel like it's just like a whole nother world has opened up to me. And I feel that once I retire from my current position, I'm walking into a new one that brings me a new level of joy.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So, I mean, it sounds like you're pretty fearless when it comes to taking that change or making that leap. So, Robin, let me ask you, what do you think stops certain women in our age from having that fear of making that change?
I think it's the images that are projected out here about older women. And then if we want to drill it down even further, when you start talking about African American women or women of color, Black women, then it's the images. And then, you know, sometimes we don't always have the support we need to encourage us in our own circles. Yeah. So we're there for everybody else. And people have gotten used to that. They've grown used to it, and they have expectations. So I would say the biggest thing is going to be pushing past what a friend of mine calls pushing past your push. So, you know,
I like that.
Yeah, I love that saying, and getting past the fear. But I think the key piece is spending time really thinking about how you want to spend the second half, if you will, or what in the field of aging we refer to, what kind of encore career do you want to have? And just spend time sitting with that and taking small steps, not keeping, you know, and particularly if you have a little fear or reticence, it's best to really take small steps. So I think that's the key.
Yeah. Because that's usually the first step for me working with women, because they tell me they're stuck. They don't know what to do. They know they're unhappy doing what they're doing now. So we often start with just going through a process of understanding why you feel the way you do and what's stopping you. In fact, how can you push past your push?
Yeah, you know? And Janice, I would add too that a lot of times we don't really believe or feel that we deserve to be happy.
Yes.
You know, in our age group, we were taught you get your education, get a good job, you stay on that job forever, get your good pension, and then right off into the sunset. So we've been doing a lot of things out of obligation or expectation.
Yeah.
And so I always try to encourage myself as well as others to really think about what it is that if you knew you were going to leave this earth in, let's say, a year, what would you really want to do? And that helps us sometimes to put things in perspective. Or if you knew you only had 10 years left to live, what would you do? So really, you know, drilling down on what brings you joy and feeling and realizing that you deserve that.
Absolutely. Now, Robbie, you come across as pretty confident in making those decisions to pivot. But when you started doing the pivots or looking at it, what did you fear the most about changing careers?
Good question, Janice. Well, first of all, I may seem fearless, but I, like anybody else, has trepidation about change. I mean, let's face it, we all get comfortable in our little niches, and we want, you know, we've gone through all kinds of things, and when we finally get things in order, we kind of want to just leave it alone. And so the fear is there for me, just like for anything else. I think what's bigger for me, though, is the fear that if I don't do it, if I don't explore it, what am I gonna, how am I gonna feel? Am I gonna regret? And usually I can answer that question and say, if you don't do X, Y, or Z, if you don't try at least, you're going to really regret it.
Yeah. And let me just dig a bit deeper on that, Robin. What regrets do you think you would have had if you didn't go for it?
Well, I think one regret, if I, for example, deciding to go back to get my master's degree.
Yeah.
I think the biggest regret would have been that I didn't give myself an opportunity to enter into a field that I probably should have entered into in the first place.
Right.
So that would have been one. And another is, I just think the biggest thing for me is when I get an idea and when it's placed in my heart in such a way that I know that it is clear and it's really almost like a mission or is a mission. I just cannot ignore it. And trust me, there have been times when I have tried to. It's just like, no, I like the way everything is just right now. But there's that nudge, that that feeling that says, move on, try.
Yeah. I totally understand that. So what would you say, Robin, so far has been your biggest challenge and the lesson learned overcoming it?
Biggest challenge. That's a good question. Now that's, God, I hadn't thought about it like that. Well, I think, Janice, in forming the business, the biggest challenge, it hasn't been so much I was going to say it hasn't been so much for me personally, but I guess it has in a way. A lot of times when I'm, recruiting women or getting them on board to take advantage of the trips that I offer or some of the cultural activities, some of the negativity that they might receive from someone in their circle.
Yeah.
So not so much me directly, but okay, how am I going to encourage this person? How am I going to help them get past this so that they are feeling fulfilled and they have not destroyed relationships at the same time? So that would probably be my biggest challenge as it relates to the business. The other thing would be, I'm basically an impatient person. And there are times when, when we're planning for a trip and I have the groups together, we always have a Facebook group.
Right.
For all the groups that have traveled with me. And I spend a lot of time, putting content in that group that I feel is going to make your trip seamless or as seamless as possible. And when someone doesn't follow that, and it causes problems for them and sometimes for the group, that's probably one of the things, just maintaining that patience and, not really getting angry about it, because I'm thinking we've been talking about this for a whole year and I can't believe you still made that decision. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
So the biggest decision, and then I've been forced to really think about why people do that. And I have found, Janice, when I really drilled down, found that it was connected to their own fear in some kind of way.
Right.
So once you get an understanding of where these things are coming from, it helps you to deal with it, but it's still a challenge.
Yeah. Appreciate that. Thank you. So, Robert, with all that knowledge and everything you've accumulated over the years, if you had to start over from scratch, knowing what you know now, what would you do differently?
Oh, I can talk about that forever. So the first thing I would have done after finishing college at age 22, I would have gone into the Peace Corps.
All right. Okay.
Yeah. So once again, that seed to travel abroad and to experience a life abroad and cultures abroad was already there. But because again, due to programming, get a job, buy a house, that kind of, I kind of push that off. And I cannot tell you, Janice, the number of times that I have sent off and requested an application for the Peace Corps, at least 8 times. And I have never sent it off. So that would have been, I think I would have started this international journey early in my life. I would have done that at age 22. The problem, I think, when I think back on it, I didn't see enough examples of people doing it who were Black.
Right, right.
So I mean, there were plenty of, white people and other folks who were doing it, but I didn't see enough examples. So it was like it got pushed to the side. It was one of those things that got buried. And when I think about it, just throughout the years, I've had really fulfilling jobs and things that I've enjoyed, but there's always been that nagging feeling that something was missing. And I wasn't able to really identify it specifically as international travel or international living until I started my business. And then I said, now, if I had to do over again, this is what I would do.
Fabulous, fabulous. I'm going to ask you a little bit more. I'm going to ask you a little bit more about your business. So tell us about why you started This I Do for Me.
So, again, I was noticing that, one is it was the onset of really accepting that international travel and exposure was really important to me. It was like accepting that for myself. But because I'm by nature a person that likes to share, to me, it makes no sense to have a lot of things, knowledge or whatever it is, and not be able to share it.
Yeah.
And then, when we're looking at starting a business, we're looking at what is a problem that you're trying to solve.
Yes.
And so trying to solve the problem of, I was observing that Black women specifically, were not, in my estimation, doing the best job of taking care of themselves, myself included. And so I just felt so strongly about that mission that it was important for me to really establish that. And interestingly enough, when I first established and announced it, like on all my social media platforms, or when I shared it with friends and family, people were really excited about it. And I was like, okay, well, maybe I'm on to something here. So the beauty of it is that I get to see older women grow.
Right.
And if you really want to see growth in yourself and in others, watch them in international travel settings because of all that it involves. And we prepare anywhere from 12 to 15 months for a trip. I'll announce a trip on January 1st. And when I announce, it's never for the same year. It's always for the next year. So people have, those who need a payment plan and that kind of thing. So one of the highlights of having this business, and I didn't know it when I started it, but as time has gone on, is watching the growth of people, of women, of Black women specifically, and to see where they were when they first signed up for a trip to when the culmination of a trip, they're not the same person.
Fabulous, fabulous, fabulous. Thank you for that. So let me get back on track quickly. Get me back on track. So Robin, finish this sentence for me, please.
Okay.
My best career advice for other women at midlife is
to sit down and do an inventory of your skills, the things that you love to do. Identify if there's something you've always wanted to do and have not done it for whatever reason, and begin to put that in place, small steps at a time.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Thank you very much for that. So what are the three things throughout your career journey, Robin, that you've learned about yourself?
One, that not only am I impatient, but I'm going to always be impatient. That's not going to change. So, it comes a point where you just have to accept who you are.
Right.
I have friends that say, now you can be patient in the most serious of crises, but when someone just doesn't meet your deadline or something, you just can't handle it. It's just, so patience is one. What was the question again, Janice? I'm sorry.
So what are the three things you've learned about yourself?
About myself. Okay, so that's one. I'm impatient, and that, even though I'm a little bit better, that's not going to really change.
Yeah.
The other thing is I have learned that I will push past my push. That doesn't really take away from any fear that I might be having, any doubts, because I have plenty of that. But there's something planted in me that says, okay, I guess I just like a challenge. And then the third thing I've learned about myself would be that I can really stick a situation through. So, it might look mountainous at first. It might look like there are a lot of obstacles and barriers. But again, because I try to take things small steps at a time, it's like, okay, how can I chip away at that problem?
Yeah.
So I've learned that I really like to do that, and that I grow tremendously as a result of it.
Right. And that, just listening to that, it's like, well, how do you balance the two? Because one of the first examples you gave was that you're impatient. Yet your last one is that you will stick at it.
Yeah, I think, I guess the impatience comes from what my mother would call mistakes that don't have to be made.
Right.
I think that's where my impatience comes. It's just like looking at the patterns, like people can make a mistake, but if the pattern doesn't change. So I think that's, even as I talk with you about it, it gets clearer and clearer. It's really about changing patterns. And but the other piece of it is there's just something in me that just refuses to let something intimidate me. Now that doesn't, if you think about the Wizard of Oz, everybody was scared. They were trembling and everything, but they kept pushing, they kept going forward. And so that's how I see myself. It's a weird dichotomy, but I think they fall in two different realms.
Right. I totally get that. So my penultimate question, Robin, is what does success feel like to you?
I think when you are comfortable, or when I'm comfortable with where I am. So if I'm 20 pounds heavier than I'd like to be, I'm not necessarily comfortable. I don't necessarily like that. I may know that, okay, I may need to make some changes in that area, but I don't beat myself up about it anymore. And I don't put undue pressure on myself. And then by the time I attack that problem, it's for me and not for someone else. It's not for society. It's not for a boyfriend. It's not because someone keeps saying you need to do it. It just has more to do with my own internal thing.
Yeah. I get that. Well, that was my last official question, Robin. But, I love what you're doing. And I love that, you're helping, I suppose, women over 50 explore more and realize that, they're not done yet. There's still, life to be lived going further down. So if those women listening to this want to know more about, this I do for me, look at joining one of your trips, contact you, how can they do that?
Yeah, the best way would be, there are several ways. One is my email address, which is robintillotson46@gmail.com. You can find me on Facebook as Robin Joyce Tillotson, Instagram as This I Do For Me, and Twitter as The Nest Keeper.
Fabulous. That's an interesting Twitter handle, actually. Thinking about that. Yeah, we won't dig into that. But thank you. But Robin, thank you so much for joining me on This Woman Can today. I've really enjoyed our conversation.
And it's been my pleasure. Again, thank you for the invite.
You're welcome. So tell me what you think about that conversation with Robin. There were so many things that she said that really stood out for me. I love the fact that she's pivoted more than once. Yeah, she left a very successful career in her 40s, and now she's set up her own business in her late 50s. And what a company, what an organisation to set up, allowing other women to really explore international travel, get outside their comfort zone, pushing past their fears to really explore, their full capacity, what's there for them. And I love that she's doing that. I love that she's encouraging these women to explore their their personal development, should I say, and really stretch themselves and realize that, look, the 50s that our mother's 50s is not the 50s we have now. So that's a fantastic thing she's doing there. And I love that she's creating a community very much like I'm doing with This Woman Can. If you've listened to previous podcasts, you know that I recently launched the This Woman Can community, specifically for Black women over 40 who really want to challenge the status quo when it comes to their careers. Just like Robin, she realized that this wasn't enough for her. There was more she had inside of her to let out, and that's what the community does. So it's a virtual space where you can hang out judgment-free with other like-minded women. We'll do challenges, we'll have support, we'll network, and we'll do so much more. So I'm really inviting you to join me in the This Woman Can community. And it's really, really easy. You can just go to thiswomancan.coach to join the community, or my website, janissutherland.com. But it's a dedicated space solely for women just like you listen to this podcast, who can explore and just talk about the challenges or some of the things we may feel uncomfortable about talking about in normal arenas when it comes to our careers. So that was it for This Woman Can this week. Just sit back, reflect, drop me a note. What stood out for you? What would you like me to explore more? Who would you like me to have as a guest on the podcast? I'm open to all those things. Just email me at info@janissutherland.com or hit me on all the socials. I am Janice Sutherland. And as always, remember, if I can, you can, this woman can. Take care until next time. Hey fabulous, have you joined my private group This Woman Can yet? It's a community for mid-career Black women who are unafraid to challenge the status quo, advance their careers, build and share power without shortchanging their life. The This Woman Can community is a virtual space where Black women over 40 can connect freely, share their thoughts, get support with career challenges, network and hang out with like-minded women. No woman should feel like they need to figure out everything on their own. You deserve a group of women you can trust, who understand what you're going through and who genuinely want to help you succeed. Apart from this team in your corner, This Woman Can will share tools specifically geared to women looking to keep moving on the up and up in their careers and their midlives. In other words, it's the place where you, me, and fellow mid-career women speak our truth, share our successes, advise on best practices, and get inspired. Head over to janissutherland.com and click the join community, and I'll see you there because I would love to have you be part of it.